Hey guys, welcome to episode number 3. In this episode we're going to work on the guitar neck, and we're going to make sure that we get the binding swapped on it, and depending on how long the episode gets. I don't want to make very long episodes. I think 20 minutes is kind of the max I'd like to make these things, so if time permits we might even do some fret work, but I'm anticipating this binding work to take some time. Originally I thought the guitar body would actually be a lot easier to swap the binding, and the more I think about it, I think it was actually easier. I think the neck's going to be a little bit harder, so I guess that's good that I did the easy one first to kind of get my feet wet a little bit. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so I got my setup for the binding replacement. I went ahead and I pre-cut a strip of binding. So the bottom is flat, the top is not quite the correct size. I tried pretty hard to get in there, and it's not perfect. You can tell there's a bit of a ridge there. So I still have quite a little bit of filing to have to do to get this down to size, but I think what I might do is I might just start taking the binding off. So I've measured it. So on the side with the side dots, so the one with the dots, it starts at 5 millimeters and actually makes its way down to 3.5. So it kind of tapers down. So I thought I'll do this side first since it's harder. On the other side, it's just 5 all throughout. And then this middle piece at the end, I'm just going to take that off, put the new one on, and this will be easy to just grind down, kind of how I did with the body, just because there's no frets in the way. The reason why I can't just put the new binding on and grind it down later is because the frets get in the way. I need to make sure it's flush, and then I can go ahead and glue it on, or else these fret ends, like I said, they get in the way. So I'm going to take my hair dryer, and I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to try to get all this binding off without damaging anything. So let's see what happens. All right, that took me an hour and 45 minutes. That was not very fun. I did not enjoy that. What I did was I went in and I took literally my razor blade and I just kind of scalloped along where the frets were. So I've got it stuck on there nice and good. The binding is now flush to the side of the fretboard. It's not flush with the top. It's only flush where the frets are. So I'm going to glue this as is, and then once the glue's hardened, then I will take my razor and file it from the top to get it flush this way, and then I'll do it from the side as well to get it flush with the side of the neck as well. So I'm going to do it now on the other side. I'm not going to do it on camera just because that was an hour and 45 minutes. I'm pretty sure I don't want to speed through that footage again. So just what I did to this side, I'm just going to flip it over and do it to the other side. All right, so it's actually the next day now. My camera battery died overnight, and I didn't check to see if it was still filming. So I ended up getting a lot more work done, and it ended up all being off camera. So I got the binding on the side with the side dots installed. I haven't put the side dots in yet, but I've got it on. I'm pretty happy with the result. If the camera will just focus. It's not exactly flush. You know, it's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy considering, you know, obviously it's my first time. So I'm going to roll with it. I think these small imperfections kind of add some character to the guitar. It's not that perfect character. This end here I accidentally snapped off, so I'm just gluing it back on again, and then I've got this end piece installed as well in the binding. So on the other side, I've got the binding taken out. I haven't installed this side yet. It's a very long process. All this work, it's about 3 hours of work that I've put in so far, and I probably have just about that much still to go. So I've got the binding for the other side that I'm going to put on. So I've kind of gone in and I've marked that's about 6 millimeters, and I need 5. So the reason why I left it at 6 is to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. I don't want to cut too deep, otherwise then the fretboard is exposed on the side. So the way that I've kind of been going about this, so this is 10 millimeters. I've gone with a cutter, and I've kind of just been snipping off on the sides, and then the rest I've just been filing down with like a hand file and some 100 grit sandpaper, and then kind of going over the fine details with my razor blade, which this has pretty much been my primary tool. I've been using this the most. It's done a lot of work. And so it's still going strong. Who knew a little cheap razor would be able to do so much work? But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut this binding down to size, and then we're gonna glue it in. All right, so I've got the binding ready to be glued in. I've gone in with my razor blade and I've cut little notches alongside where the fret ends are. And so my next step is I'm going to prepare this and pop it into glue. I'm ready now to glue this in, so I'm going to start on this side here. I'm going to put the glue directly on the side of the fretboard and spread it out with a toothpick, and then just put the binding on, and then just kind of hold it down with tape. And then again, this stuff dries in 10 seconds, but it needs 24 hours to cure. So I'm going to come in tomorrow, take the tape off, and then we'll check out to see how we did. So without further ado, let's start gluing. The binding has been taped and glued in, so we're going to let that sit now for 24 hours, let this glue cure. It's a bit of a mouthful. So let's, I don't know, honestly, this is a lot easier than the other side. The other side, I did it completely differently. I kind of just put the binding on without cutting it down to size, and it just really took a long time just cutting around those fret ends and just stuck it on, and then I had to grind down quite a bit, and it's not a really good job. And unfortunately, it's on the side with the side dots. So that's the part of the fret, the binding that you're going to see the most. So the part that you're not going to see the most is obviously the one that I did the best job on. So I'm curious to see how this holds up, to see if it's nice and level with the fretboard. So tomorrow I'm going to come in. I'm going to take all the tape off. I'm going to grind it all down and get it nice and ready. And then we're probably going to do some fret work tomorrow. So I'll see you then. So it's actually been a couple days now. I ran into quite the issue rather. When I was going back and editing the footage, there's been a lot of stuff has happened between what you just saw and now, and a lot of that footage got corrupted, and I can't use it. So I'm pretty ticked about that because I got a lot of work done. I was excited to put it in the video, but the last time you watched, I had just taped it and glued the one side of the binding. So ever since then, it's been glued on. I've put all the side dots in as well on this side. So the side dots are in. I've gone and I've put the binding on. I've scraped it down to size, and I've even got the new nut, which is a Graphtec Tusk XL nut, and hopefully it focuses. Come in. Okay, whatever, not gonna focus. Anyways, I got a Graphtec XL nut that's gonna go on. If I can grab it. It's gonna go on like that. So I've got that. So that's a couple things that I've done. I've done a couple things to the body as well. I've done a couple mods. So I drilled a hole right here for a little mini switch, and I've made all these holes bigger to accommodate the new potentiometers that I'm going to be putting in to the body. So Those are some of the things that I've done. Unfortunately, a lot of the footage got corrupted, so I couldn't use any of it. So you're probably wondering, what the hell do I have on top of my work table here? What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and level the frets. So I've gone in, I've marked the tops of the frets with Sharpie. And so what that's going to do is it's going to be a good visual indicator to us which frets have been worn down quicker and which ones will take longer to wear down. So what I've got is here is a level, which is completely straight, and I've gone on to tape pieces of 320 grit sandpaper to one end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a fret leveling beam. I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to put any downward force, just the weight of this alone will be enough. And I'm going to start going back and forth on the fretboard to start leveling the frets. So what's going to happen is the frets that are high, that Sharpie is going to wear down right away. And some of the other frets are going to take a little longer, and those are a little lower. So once I've gone through and I've noticed that, I've hit the Sharpie on every single fret, my frets are now level. So we're going to do that right now. All right, so we've gone in, we've leveled the frets. So it's going to be a little hard to tell if my freaking camera will focus. So I've gone in. It's kind of hard to tell. The Sharpie's still there, but it's not on the top of the fret anymore. It's on the sides. So that means every single fret has been hit, and we now have a completely level fretboard. We have level frets on our fretboard. So there's a couple steps that I'm going to be doing. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is actually a really cool tip that I learned from Guns and Guitars. So what he does is he takes a little bit of tape and he just puts it over top of the 12th fret, which is right here, and then he runs the leveling beam again on just the higher frets. And what that does is the masking tape, elevates the fret beam ever so slightly. And so what that'll do is now it'll provide a very slight taper on the higher frets. So you can have a really low action and you won't get any fret buzz because of that. So I've never done a fret leveling job before, but that's Guns and Guitars is a channel I love to watch. There's a lot of really great tips. Dan Thompson, that's the guy's name. So he recommended doing this in one of his DIY videos. And that's also where I got this idea, putting the sandpaper on top of a leveling beam to create your own fret leveler. So now I'm going to do that. So I'm going to run this along the higher frets. All right, so I've gone in and I have done that. So now I've gone in, I've leveled all the frets. There's a couple other steps that obviously remain. So what we're going to be doing, I might not have time to do this all today, just because it's so late in the day. I've had a really busy day doing all the other work, only to find out that the video files are corrupted. So a couple other things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be grabbing my file and I'm going to be running in along the sides just to make sure that these fret ends aren't super sharp and they're comfortable while I play. Once we do that, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to crown the frets. So right now that I've gone through and I've leveled the frets, it's flat on the tops. So that's not the best idea for a fret. You want it to be very round. You want it to be like a semicircle. That way, when you're bending, the string will sustain perfectly. So that's what you want. Right now I've got trapezoid frets, and so you're going to get a lot more friction, a lot more contact that way, and that's not what you want. So next, I'm going to go through with my file, and I'm going to get at those fret ends. All right, so I've gone through. I've hit those edges at a bit of an angle, just so that when I'm running up and down the fretboard, I don't cut myself and bleed all over the place because the fret ends are super sharp. So that's good to go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my file again, and I'm going to, this time, run it in like this along the top to kind of level these ends out a little bit, just to taper them off a little bit. That'll just make for another, just more comfort while I'm playing the guitar. Actually, before I do that, this is something I should have done a lot earlier. I'm actually going to tape off the fretboard because doing this will actually scratch up your frets, your fretboard rather, and I didn't even think about that. So do as I say, not as I do. Got the fretboard all taped up now. It's a good thing I remember now because I'm gonna have to do this anyways because there's a whole bunch of other stuff I need to do the frets, so this just makes it easier. So I'm gonna go in now and do what I just said I was gonna do and just kind of round off those corners. Gone in, I've hit those corners, and so they're feeling nice and smooth now. They don't kind of have that bite to them anymore that they did when I first got the kit, which is what you would expect. Low quality fret wires. They're generally not cut very well, and so if you take the time to really get that all nice and smooth, it's going to make a huge difference. It might seem like a minor thing, but just the overall feel of the neck, it's a big deal. The guitar will play better. It's proven that it will play better. And so that's kind of what I've done now. And so the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to crown the frets. So after I did the fret leveling, so a normal fret looks like that. Now that I've done the fret leveling, it's kind of more like a trapezoid sort of shape. And so now I want to make that trapezoid into a nice smooth semicircle again. So I'm going to prepare my little tool that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to hit this with a couple grits of sandpaper and just form that nice arc. So I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, we're ready now to crown and polish the frets. So talking a little quietly because it's really late at night and my folks are sleeping downstairs. So I'm trying to be mindful of that. So what I've got right now is a little block. I've taped this is 2,000 grit sandpaper to this side and 800 grit sandpaper on this side. And I've already gone in, I've done one fret just to kind of see what it's like. A little bit of steel wool, this is quad 0 steel wool, and then some metal polish. So, look at that fret right here. That thing is shining like beautiful. That's really shining nice. And so, I'm going to do this for all 22 frets. So, the way I did this first fret is I took the 800 grit sandpaper, and first thing I did actually, before I even get to that, is I put a line of Sharpie along the top of every single fret. Now I'm going to run through on an angle on the fret, and so as I'm running, I'm starting like this, and then I'm making my way to the top like that. So that's going to form a nice semicircle on the fret. I'm going to do that with the 800 to remove the material and get that shape, and making sure I keep a thin line of Sharpie up in the middle. Same thing on the other side. And it's because we want that flat surface on the top. And so once I've done that, then I'm going to go with my 2000 to get the scratches off and to really mirror it and get a nice polish. And then with the steel wool, I'll get rid of all the Sharpie on the top, and then I'm going in with the polish to get it shiny. And so I'm going to do that now for all 22 frets. Gone through now and I've hit all the frets, and look at that. That is a nice shiny fretboard. I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to take the tape off now and let's see what the frets actually look like with the fretboard. This is looking absolutely beautiful. Look at those frets. Nice shine to them. Got a nice, smooth, flat fretboard now. So the frets have been leveled and crowned. This was something I was really concerned about because I've never done any of this before. So overall, it's not the best of jobs, obviously, but once we put the strings on, we'll see how good of a job I really did. If you get this properly done by a professional, you'll have no dead spots, you'll have no frets ringing anywhere. With a proper setup, your guitar will play perfectly. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But whether or not I actually get that, who knows? I'm really happy overall with the neck. Again, we got the side dots in there now. The new binding has been installed successfully. I'm going to leave the neck, the headstock blank. I'm not putting any binding on there. Just because since it's crooked, I think it'll be more obvious that it's crooked with binding. So with no binding, it'll be a little harder to tell. And we got the new nut, which we will be installing probably next episode. So that will go there. So I'm going to wrap this episode up here. So we got a lot of work done. I got the neck all done. And then next episode, I'm probably going to glue it on and do my finish sanding. And then start the fun stuff, which will be, applying the finish, applying the coloring and everything else. So I'll see you guys in episode number 4. We'll get to all that. So see you guys then.